I remember just like struggling, Lord, you know this is such a longing of my heart to be married. I'm in my 30s. I'm really, really struggling with this. And I do remember him bringing me to this place of, Lord, even if you don't bring me this husband, I trust you. Like, I know that you will give me the strength to trust you and to love you still, even if this biggest dream of my heart doesn't happen.
Rebecca St. James is a Grammy and Dove Award-winning Christian music legend with more than 2 million albums sold, and she's also an accomplished actress and the author of more than a dozen books. Cubbie Fink is a founding member of the multi-platinum Grammy-nominated indie pop band Foster the People, and he's also a successful film producer and director. They got married in 2011, and they're the authors of a brand new memoir called Lasting Ever: Faith, Music, Family, and Being Found by True Love. I'm so happy you guys are here with me.
Kirk, it is a joy to be back with you. I'm having flashbacks to being with you and Chelsea on the Left Behind set.
I know.
I mean, we were all kids.
How old were you then?
We were all kids.
I was probably 18 years old, 19 years old.
I think I was about the same age. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so great. You weren't even in the picture yet.
Oh, no.
Cubbie.
Nowhere near the picture.
No, that's right. You come later in the story, but it's such a great story. How did you both meet?
You and me.
We always have to decide who's going to share.
Go for it. So we were both living in LA at the time. Rebecca had moved from Nashville to LA to pursue some acting opportunities that she was, passionate about. I was there also pursuing film and got sidetracked by music a little bit. And long story short, there was a philosophy group that met, and it was a guy that opened his home to basically teach philosophy as a foundation for theology. So people would come and debate and have spirited conversations, and a lot of people ended up coming to the Lord through this group, and there was a couple of marriages that transpired out of this group. We were one of them, but ultimately that was kind of the binding factor. It was our friends that met and schemed a little bit and got us in the same place at the same time. And
so you met while discussing the deeper meanings of life.
Well, I mean, it was really our mutual friends that we kind of met through that group. And then he was working in TV at that time and pulling really long hours. So he wasn't at the group very much. But I got invited through these friends to an event with his TV show that he was at. And I have a song about, my future husband that I wrote like 10 years before I met him.
Bro, I already know. She had been praying for you for years, ever since she was like 18.
It's true.
Because I was 19, and I remember singing about these songs, and she's been waiting for him, and she's praying for him, and she is not going to compromise until she meets the one. I mean, I actually remember this long before you came into the picture.
That's so sweet that you remember that. Thank you.
So you must have been so excited. Did you know that he was the one?
Well, I had an inkling pretty right away. I mean, I remember seeing him across the room, and it was definitely, we talk about it in the book, but it was this choir sings.
One of those movie moments.
One of these tractor beams that was like sucking you into
like a Hallmark moment.
Yeah.
But it was like my song, like, waiting for the look in your eyes when we meet for the first time. There was something really magical. And I remember leaving that event going, I like that guy. Like, there's something
there was
special.
more than the look. We ended up talking for most of the evening.
Yeah, connecting. Our hearts
there was a lot of
for sure.
connecting,
and you actually talked back then. See, now today the kids say, "Yeah, I'm talking to this girl,"
right?
But they're not really talking to her.
Right.
It just means
technology.
It's technology.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we actually talked.
We did.
You actually talked.
With our voices.
That's good. And a lot of young Christians today are very, and appropriately so, concerned about wanting to honor the Lord in their relationships. And I know that it was a big deal for you guys to really be committed to the Lord in every area of your life. And that was during that movement called True Love Waits.
Yeah.
I remember that. But there was a movement that everyone was talking about then, and it was sort of novel to think that a couple would preserve purity until they're were married, which is really just such an obvious biblical concept, but it was like novel at the time and crazy.
Yeah.
How did that impact your relationship?
I mean, it was a common value that we shared, which was a lot of the common ground that we shared from moment one. But it was something that was really instilled in me kind of first through my parents, never very heavy-handedly, just more they shared with me kind of biblical principles and the way God laid it out. And these principles are in place for for your embetterment. And then when that movement came along, it's like, well, that aligns with
lines right up
with what I believe, and it was something that I was able to commit to, and something that I wanted to commit to until my marriage night. And the fact that that was so much a part of both of our stories, it was really beautiful.
Thankful for it, for sure.
You write in your book that if a person is not able to be content in every season of their life, single, married, whatever the season is, they're not going to magically learn contentment after the wedding day. Can you unpack that for us?
I think it's something that you just have to practice in any season, whether it's kind of, we talk about in our book about winter seasons, and a hard time, specifically hard time that we went through with miscarriage and job loss and like his mom dying and a lot. But there's different seasons in life, a winter season, spring season, summer season, fall. But we have to practice contentment in all of those seasons. And for me, that was a real challenge. Like I remember being in LA, I remember just like struggling, Lord, this is such a longing of my heart to be married. I'm in my 30s. I'm really, really struggling with this. And I do feel that he brought me to a place. And I'm not saying that because I came to this place, then God rewarded me with a husband. Nothing like that, because it's not, any gift from him is grace. It's just a gift. It's not something we deserve. But I do remember him bringing me to this place of, Lord, even if you don't bring me this husband, I trust you. Like, I know that you will give me the strength to trust you and to love you still, even if this biggest dream of my heart doesn't happen. And I do think that there was something to the freedom that we went into marriage with, of like, this dream is a longing of both of our hearts, but it's not the be all and end all. And we can kind of love each other a little bit more freely from that place instead of give to me, complete me. It's almost two wholes coming together to be a stronger unit rather than two halves trying to grab from each other.
Oh, that's so good and such an important concept. My wife and I have 6 children, and 2 of our kids are married, and the others are longing for that relationship. They want to find the one, and they want it now.
Yes,
right. They don't want to wait, and yet God makes everything right in His time. What advice would you give to young people like my kids who are in that season of waiting, and they're wondering, are we ever going to meet somebody? And I don't want to play games. I don't want to do the dating thing. I want to be intentional, but it just seems like it's not coming together. Will I ever find them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a continued conversation about contentment, kind of springboarding off what Rebecca said. And I think it's far too easy to look to the thing to make us complete and happy and fulfilled, where God is encouraging us to find contentment in just His presence and the fact that we can rest in the fact that we are a son and daughter of the King, and we have access to His throne room, and we have contentment because we are in His presence, and that's the source of joy that we can carry into life, as opposed to looking to the job or the money or the relationship or the marriage or the child or any of these things that we think, well, if I just get my hands on that and bring it into my world, then I'm going to be happy. But what we find over and over and over is when we get the thing, we're still the same person. And if we haven't found contentment here, we're never going to find contentment with the things that think are going to make us happy. So I think it's in that waiting period, it's an opportunity for us to really learn what Paul says, I found a way to be content in all situations. So content unmarried, if you're not content unmarried, you're never going to be content married. So I think those waiting seasons are not fun and they're not easy, but if you can look at it, like Paul says, I look at every hardship as an experience or an opportunity to grow, essentially. Learning contentment in those seasons of waiting, I think, is the challenge.
Valuable.
Do you have advice for people who are saying, but what should I look for in a spouse? Because I just got out of a relationship and I definitely don't want that to happen again, where I invest myself, I invest my time, my heart, and then all of a sudden I find out that this person is not who I thought that they were, right? Or for whatever reasons, it's not going to work out. And I don't want to waste another year and a half of my time. What should a young lady look for in a mate?
I mean, I think character and integrity and a true relationship with Jesus, like that you actually see fruit of this intimate relationship with Jesus, is probably the highest value, I think, because that is going to provide trust that is the foundation for your love, and no one's going to be perfect. And, our dating relationship had its highs and its lows and its moments of going, okay, what about this or what about that? Things that we had to work through. But I think that character of his commitment to Jesus and the Holy Spirit's work that I saw in his life provided that foundation. And I think sometimes you can only see that over time. You know, I think dating for a little while, not marrying super fast is a good thing too, because you want to see this integrity lived out, that they are trustworthy, that you want this person to be the father of your children, you know? Like, for me as a woman, I think that was very valuable.
That's such a good question to ask, right? Is this the man that I want to be the father of my children? Is this woman the woman who I want to be the one that they say, that was my mom, that was my mom?
Yeah.
Cubbie, what advice would you give to someone if they're asking, how do I know that this is the one? The one, not just a good one, but the one.
Yeah, and I think that's where in today's day and age and culture and technology and all the things, it can be completely overwhelming because of the options. I mean, 100 years ago, you lived in a town where there was potentially 2, maybe 3 options, and one that probably made the most sense. Now we literally have the world at our fingertips, and the overwhelming amount to weed through to figure out, okay, is this the one, can be completely, I mean, anxiety-inducing and all the things, and can really ultimately kind of cause people to not even want to look, because it's like, how do I find the one in the midst of this sea? But I think
that's how I feel when I go to a restaurant that has a menu that's just way too long.
Too much.
Way too much. I can't. I want to go somewhere else.
By the choice.
But I think it is a process of really being Holy Spirit led in your decisions as you pursue dating, as you pursue relationships, and just continuing to offer that relationship before the Lord. But ultimately, it really is kind of a leap of faith at the end of the day, and it is saying, okay, Lord, you know, all these boxes are checked, but you never really know.
Yeah.
I think there is a saying, when you know, and I think there was a deep sense that we knew this was right, but it's also a step of faith, and it's a commitment to stay committed to this relationship, come what may, and it's a commitment to, to death. And it was a decision very specifically for both of us. The D word is not going to enter our conversation. We are committing to this, and we're going to work through the hard stuff together.
There's no plan B.
No plan B.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I have a wise old owl in my life. He's a Presbyterian elder. He's probably pushing 80 years old, and he does so much counsel. He's kind of like my personal Gandalf, and I consult him now and then. You know, he's reminded me that so much of getting ready for marriage is not only looking for the one, but it is asking God to help you be the one.
Yeah.
Yes.
The one that she's looking for, too, right?
Absolutely.
And that if I can commit myself to being the man of God that God's calling me to be, that ultimately is who that quality of a girl is really looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you're speaking to something, too, that I feel like I'm hearing a lot, and even on I do a podcast with Focus on the Family, a parenting podcast, and I have a wonderful co-host, Danny Huerta, and he talks a lot about being a contributor rather than a consumer when it comes to relationships. How am I contributing within my family? How am I contributing in this relationship? And I just love that. That's what I hear from what you're saying. Like, how can I think about what I'm bringing to the table for this person that's my potential spouse rather than having consumer approach to it?
Yeah. I love that in your book, Lasting Ever, you talk about being found by true love rather than you finding true love. What do you mean by that?
I mean, that language is really intentional when we were thinking about the title and the subtitle, because, and I shared really this idea earlier, but any gift, any good thing is a gift from God. You know, it's His doing. And I don't know, I think we live in a culture that entitlement is just a thing. Like, I'm entitled to my dreams coming true, and I'm entitled to this and that. But when it's being found by true love, like, God orchestrated that.
Yes.
Like, He brought this to be, you know. It wasn't us finding it. It wasn't us achieving it. It was Him bringing it about. And so we're found by true love here, by Him first as believers. And then finding this is that extra gift that I'll forever, till my dying day, just be grateful that it happened.
I agree with you. I think relationships are just one of the many gifts that God gives us. I've often thought that if my plans had gone my way, I never would have met my wife, Chelsea. I never would have been a Christian. I was an atheist, and I planned to disprove to all of my Christian friends that that there was a God. And I wanted to be a doctor, not an actor. But had either of those things stayed the course, I'd still be in my sins. I'd be headed for hell. Chelsea wouldn't have given me the time of day. So every good and perfect gift comes right down from the Father of lights. And I remember a pastor saying to me one time what you just said, and that is, he said, Kirk, if anyone ever asks, how did you find God in Hollywood? He said, remember, you didn't find God. He wasn't lost. You were, and he found you.
So good.
I'm like, you're right.
That's so good.
That's exactly right. Now, you both were deeply involved in the music industry when you met. So what were your thoughts about how getting married might impact your careers?
Yeah, it's interesting. Rebecca was kind of at the tail end of her career, trying to work towards coming off the road and sort of just hanging up that season of life. I mean, the dream of her heart for years was just to be a wife and a mom.
All my life,
all of your life. And so we're in this relationship.
She was just waiting for you to walk in the door, bro. It took you so long.
100%.
I know, it's my fault.
So
So we're in this relationship that is going well and, stepping ever closer to becoming a marriage relationship. And my career at that point with the band that I was with was starting to take off, and kind of looking at the trajectory of where things were headed, realizing that I was going to end up spending a lot of my life on the road. And this is a life that she's trying to leave. And so we actually had a pretty frank conversation and a lot of concern in my heart, just saying, hey, I know you're trying to get out of this thing. I'm about to get into this thing. How is this going to work? And she said, no, absolutely not. You should run. You should go. I'm happy to be on the road with you, supporting you. And there was so much just beautiful divine orchestration in the fact that God had prepared her for the world that she was about to step into with me.
Yeah, she could understand it. She knew the ropes already.
Totally. She wasn't freaked out by the culture and the bus and living out of a suitcase and all those things. It was very natural to her, but suddenly the weight wasn't on her shoulders. She could just sit in the crowd and enjoy it and be along for the ride in a lot of ways. So it was beautiful the way that God prepared us for each other, and a lot of things that we discovered in the process of writing this book, just unique little ways that God was preparing us along the way for a really perfect union. Not to say that our union has been perfect. There's been a lot of problems. I mean, not problems, but just things you got to work through. Just the reality of any relationship in life.
Yeah, I hear that. I'm definitely the most difficult feature of my marriage to Chelsea. But you learned a lot during this time. You had already been prepared for being married to a guy who's on the road. And you were learning about marriage even through a difficult season where your music career changed.
Yep.
Did that impact your marriage in a good way? Well, now we're both going to be off the road. I don't want to give away what happened. Tell us what happened and what you learned through these seasons of your marriage.
Totally. Yeah, so we were really our first, 4 years of marriage were consumed with heavily being on the road. I was gone, between 10 and 11 months of the year.
Yeah, because the band is thriving and you guys are getting more and more popular.
Just traveling the world all over the place, which afforded us a lot of cool opportunities to see and do a lot of very special things. I mean, it was something I don't take for granted. I mean, we're very grateful for that season. But as most people know, band life is challenging. There's just tight quarters and a lot of ego and a lot of personality and a lot of different things. And one of the more challenging things was seeing sort of the spiritual foundation of the band sort of get knocked off kilter, which became harder for me to continue to want to sow into. There was just some discrepancies on kind of the core values of what I thought this band was standing for. And so there was a big kind of internal retreat from me, from the project, which was felt by the other guys, which ultimately led to a pretty painful division and departure from the band, and kind of threw us into a season of a lot of unknown. This was what we thought, you
were going to do with the rest of your lives.
Right. And suddenly we're thrown into the abyss of the unknown and really in a place of just desperately crying out to the Lord, okay, what does this mean? What's next? What do I do? And for the first time in my life, being met with silence from the Lord. Every other crossroads, turning point in my life, God was exponentially clear on where to go and how to get there. Suddenly I'm at a massive crossroad with a 1-year-old little girl and a marriage and, having to support this family and having no idea what I was going to do next. In a lot of ways, not really knowing who I was anymore. And for the first season in my life, I was forced to live by faith. The faith that I'd claimed to have most of my life. Had a pretty radical Jesus encounter that set me on my Jesus journey. But like I said, when God's telling you what to do and how to do it, it's not really living by faith, it's more living obediently. But suddenly when you stop hearing these direct words of the Lord, it's like, okay, do I really believe what I said I believe? Do I believe that the scripture is true? Do I believe Jesus is who he said he is?
Is God going to be faithful to us?
Exactly.
He knows that we can't do this without him. We're in deep, we're over our skis.
Yep.
And you've got to show up or we're in trouble.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And so that utter reliance in the darkest of hours was what we were kind of forced to live through and stand on, and really ultimately saw God meet us kind of at the conclusion of that season. But it was 3 or 4 years of just a lot of pain. We experienced a couple of miscarriages in the process of trying to grow our family. My mom was dying. There was just looked like everywhere we looked, there was pain and hardship.
When it rains, it pours.
And yeah. And
can I ask you a question about that? There's people who I know are listening to us right now who have experienced the pain of wanting to have children, and they finally, after prayer, get pregnant and experience a miscarriage. How can you encourage people who are struggling with that right now?
It was really, really hard for me. It was one of those things I knew kind of starting later in life to have children, that it was a possibility. But my mom had 7 kids and no miscarriages.
Yeah,
and
so you figured
I kind of thought, I think we'll be fine. I know it's a possibility, but I think we'll be fine. And then it was just like blow. I was dealing with burnout at that point too from music. I mean, it was just a lot. I think what I had to hold on to in that time, similar to what Cubbie's saying, is just the goodness of God. Like he is going to be good and he's going to look after us no matter what the path forward looks like. And dreams were being shattered at that point. And I think that's what people probably listening right now go, I'm in that spot of like, just my dreams for family life being shattered through miscarriage or some other loss. And you have to grieve those. You have to kind of go through the process of grief. But I think holding to the goodness of God in that time is probably the main thing of like, he's been faithful before, he's going to continue to be faithful. Yeah. And I trust his heart and his love for me. And I rest in that.
Yeah. If people get your book, Lasting Ever, what's the main takeaway you want them to get from this?
I mean, just to springboard off of what I was just sharing, God brought us into a spring season, like just miraculously. Like I got pregnant with a second child, third child. They're here actually today with us, which is just amazing. Like restored dreams with calling and mission and all of that, and brought us into just this new spring of just the past falling away and new visions. And it was quick. It wasn't this long drawn out thing. It was like almost overnight. He just brought us into the spring in his grace. And I think I would love for people to close the book and go, God is going to be good in my story as well. He's going to be faithful. And I can trust him and I can rest in his love.
How about you, Cubbie?
I mean, I would agree. I mean, that was the overwhelming sense that I had even penning the last words of the final chapter, is just being able to look back on your life to the degree that we had to write this book, and just seeing over and over and over God's faithfulness, and seeing over and over just God being so ingrained in every detail, even in the seasons where you're not really aware of it. And I think it's special to reflect. And it's something I've been encouraging people to do since writing the book. It's like, just pause and look back, because it's a lot easier to see God's involvement in your life in retrospect sometimes than it is in the midst, especially in challenging situations. But just remarking over and over and over and just how good God is. And that is the hope, that we just walk away, or people walk away from this book just being so encouraged that God is who he says he is. The scriptures spell out the truth, and he's so good. And his plan for us is for good.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking with me and,
a pleasure.
And takeaways and sharing your story.
Thanks for having us, Kirk. It's been a joy.